Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. It's been a while, but we finally have another exhibition series in Gran Turismo 7. But first, I would like to apologize that I haven't done the Nations Cup exhibition series recently, and also me not really uploading any videos recently, which I might talk about later, or like during the stream, if I stream later on. But here you can also see the settings being used for the first round of the Manufacturers Cup, which took place at Spa, where we use for the race times 2 fuel consumption, and as for the tire wear for both the qualifying session as well as for the race itself, it was set to times 3. And you can also see that we also joined the second split, so this is not top split, even though you see so many famous and popular drivers here, such as Constar, Karlstar, Iceman, who's also called Max, Elias, Rick. So yeah, like even though this is split 2, it's still a really, or like a pretty strong lobby in the end. But now, I also would like to show you guys the qualifying session, which took place yesterday, which also lasted 5 minutes. So, with 5 minutes, if you are able to leave the pit lane pretty quickly, then excluding your out lap, you were able to set 2 flying qualifying laps in the end, which is like pretty good, because whenever tire wear is enabled for the qualifying session, there's also tire temperature being enabled, or like being set to on. So in other words, like once you leave the pits, your tires are like a little bit cold compared to the time trial conditions, or um, like during the race. If you rejoin the track after after coming from the pit lane, then you would also need like around 1 or 2 laps in order for your tires to be up on the temperature. So here in the qualifying session, yeah, it's like trying to build up the tire temperature as soon as I can. First, I was also a little bit aggressive here during my out lap, because normally if you have like tire wear enabled, logically speaking, you would think that you would try to save your tires as much as possible, so that you would have the best tire life available once you have to set your qualifying lap. But for me personally, like based on my experience, I always felt like the tire temperature is like more important than the tire life. So that's why I was also trying to push a little bit hard here on my out lap in order to build up the tire temperature. And as for the manufacturer we chose here for this Manufacturers Cup exhibition series, I decided to go back to my roots, where in 2020 I became the Manufacturers Cup champion with Subaru. And with Subaru being my favorite brand in real life as well, I was like, hey, it's been a while since I've driven for this brand, so I would like to go ahead and choose Subaru again. And if we also look at the characteristic for this track, well, with Subaru you can decide to choose between the WRX and the BRZ. Logically speaking, you would think that the WRX is quicker here, and wow, what a shock, it's quicker than the BRZ here on dry conditions. Because it's obviously quick on the straight line, and if you want to make some moves, you also need a better top speed, right? Here I would like to apologize first of all that I kind of break the gentleman agreement, because I still wanted to stay ahead of the other drivers behind of me. And yeah, so I apologize for that, but this is my first flying lap. But I still would like to talk over about the cars in general. So the WRX also has a better fuel consumption than the BRZ. And in terms of the tire wear, yes, it's worse than the BRZ, but let's say during the dry conditions, the strategy would have been to do 10 laps on the first stint, and also to finish the race with another 10 laps on the second stint. But the tire wear wasn't really that big of an issue here, so you could have chosen the WRX for the race. But the reason why I wanted to choose the BRZ over the WRX was for following reasons. I wanted to have I don't want to say a bit of a challenge, but I wanted to see how it was like to race against the other cars at the circuit with the BRZ. Because if you only race against one car, it's way different than driving against multiple cars at the very same time. Like the way how you have to position your car on the track, so that you can still defend your position or like maintain your position. and if something happens in front of you, how you can capitalize from it, right? So this is something I wanted to see how it's like to drive with the beer set here. And the other reason was like for the qualifying session here, no matter which slot you join later on, it was always the same, like the same conditions all the time. So we had the wind direction being shown to 12 o'clock, with the wind speed being set to around 3 to 3.1 meters per second. And in like during the time trial condition, you were sort of able to replicate those conditions, like not really in terms of the time of the day, but in terms of the wind speed and the wind direction, you were almost able to replicate that. So that was a good way how you could also prepare yourself for the qualifying session here. But for the race, there was also dynamic weather, where there was a chance to have rain as well. And the beer set is like one of the better cars, or like one of the best cars, I would say, in rain conditions here. So I was hoping to have some rain, because in slot 1 it was completely dry, and this is the second slot in split 2. So this is why I was hoping to see some rain in the race, but you will see that later on. But for our first lap, we set a high 0.6, but you can also see that it was a pretty good banker lap, because we put ourselves up there in P2. Behind of Maxo and in front of Elias, like German top 3. So yeah, like both of these drivers were like in the M6, but in my case I was really pleased with my lap, because normally with the BSZ I expected way worse in the qualifying session, because it's not really the best car in dry conditions. But this is also like our final attempt, and you can see that we lost a little bit of time in sector 1 compared to our first lap, because I didn't really nail the first corner there. But as for this section here, it was good compared to my first lap. The following right-hander was also good, if I remember correctly, because I was able to put the power down quite nicely. The car was also quite stable, I mean. And as for the exit here, I didn't run off on the right-hand side as I did on the previous lap, because that meant I didn't have dirty tires for the following left-hander, like through Puhor. I think that's the way how you pronounce it. And thus I was able to gain a lot more time compared to my first lap. But I think through this section here, like personally speaking, I think I lost a little bit of time, because here I could have been on the throttle a bit sooner. And with the BRZ, it's like one of those cars where you have to use the momentum as best as you can, because it's a momentum car due to its turbo and the turbo boost. Like the sooner you are on the throttle, the more you can also gain time in the end. But here you can also see Carl's at a really good lap time in the Porsche, which is 0.4. But we were also 2/10 up on Carl's time at this point. But with the BRZ being the slowest in Sector 1 and Sector 3, but the quickest in Sector 2, I didn't really expect to be in front of Carl's, but like to still see a decent improvement. Unfortunately, we missed the apex on the final left-hander, which compromised a little bit of time there. So personally, I think I could have done a 0.4 on this lap, but if I nailed everything, then I think a 0.2 would have been possible. And if it was a 0.2, then yes, it would have been pole position. But then we are talking about the if cases, which I don't want to, which I don't want to enter basically. But now, this was the qualifying session. We ended up in P4, way better than what I imagined to be the case. And this is also the weather radar. Well, it looks like the race is going to be dry once again, unfortunately. But I will catch you guys in the race later on. So, we are about to start the race. But before we start the race, I also would like to go through the grid. Because in P1 we have Consta in his 4 GT with the legendary Nicky livery from Need for Speed Carbon. He did a really good job to put his car up there. Max in P2 in the M6, Carl's in P3, my goat. Then there's me up in P4 with the BRZ, with the legendary BTCC livery from Volvo. P5, Rick, also amazing lap. Elias in P6 with the M6. OWLS in P7. Then we have Wysa in P8, P9 with Tip Racing. He's a really good driver. P10 Salve in the Alfa Romeo, Forsberg in P11 with the M6, P12 Slayers in the AMG, in P13 we have Doctor, who's also driving another 4GT here, P14 Kimi Matt in the McLaren, P15 Sparks with another most wanted livery here, and then we have Carlos in P16 with the Mazda. So I talked about it briefly during the qualifying session about the race settings here. So it's like we have to drive for 20 laps in this race, and unfortunately it's not going to rain, which, yeah, it's a little bit frustrating because the VSZ struggles a lot in dry conditions because of the fuel consumption being set to ×2. I have to save so much fuel. It's ridiculous how much fuel I have to save compared to the other drivers. Like you're going to see like the amount of short shifting, fuel map usage, and also like the meme from the current Ferrari Formula 1 team, like the Lico or Lico. I think it depends on the country, or like on the country how you pronounce it. But literally the amount of fuel saving I had to do in this race, because maybe I could have pushed a little bit more, but let's say if I push a bit more than me leading the race, for example, then the other drivers behind of me would have used my slipstream to save more fuel. And once we had to go into the pits, yeah, that meant that I was the one who was going to lose the most compared to everyone here. Because let's say when you enter the pits, because it's a 20 lap race, you have to have around 50% of fuel if you want to make it. But in my case, I was trying to save more than that when we went into the pits, because like this is something I always talk about during my streams, or like during an interview, or like during some other races I've done before. Like if we have such a long race, or like if we have a long race such as this, then I always prefer to work together with the other drivers at the beginning of the race, so that we can also manage our own pace. In my case, I was trying to save my tires a bit, but more saving fuel, like I was focused on saving more fuel here. So because this way we could also enter the pits, and then once we reach, or like we are about to enter the final stage of the race, that's why I can use a bit more fuel in order to make some moves potentially. But yeah, with the beer sets, it's a bit difficult to overtake some drivers here on the straight line, especially if you have a 4GT in front of you, and also like the Supra behind of me. But like I want to shout out to Rick here, because we were both, or like, let's say he was not trying to overtake me here at the beginning of the race, and he could have done it plenty of times. So like on the first lap he was able to overtake me there at the end of sector 1, and I think on this lap and on the following laps, sorry for my voice, he could have overtaken me as well. So I would like to say my thanks to Rick, like in my point of view, for working together. And yeah, I'm sorry for holding you up on the straight line here. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is literally it, because for the race, what is it? On the dry conditions, we could only use the medium tire compound. But for the yeah, nice one, Mikhail. But for the rain, we could have used either the intermediates or the wet tire compound, depending on how wet yeah, the track would have been. But unfortunately, yeah, it was dry once again. Yeah, literally having the same experience what Kilian Drummond experienced during the official season this year with Subaru, because there was also another round there where the weather conditions for the race was also set to dynamic. And if I remember correctly, in the Asia Oceania slot, there were like few wet races, but in EMEA all the slots were dry. So yeah, I literally experienced the Kilian experience there. Because I was so hoping to have some rain here, because that will help my car a lot, because it's like really good in rain conditions, and it's also really good in sector 2. and through sector 1 during the wet conditions. The straight line speed isn't really that important because you also have Eau Rouge, which you cannot really take flat out. But with the amount of downforce I have in the like with the BRZ, I would have been able to carry a lot more speed than the other cars through there, and thus my sector 1 time would have been like really good too. So yeah, unfortunately that was not the case. So instead we got this race instead, which was also really interesting, because it also gave me a lot more data and information about how I should approach these kind of races where I'm kind of stuck in a position where I'm not really able to overtake the cars in front of me due to the straight line speed, but on the same time, if I have to defend my position or like to maintain my position in the end, and on the same time how I can also save fuel in a car which is not the best in fuel consumption. Like, there are a few cars which are like average, or let's say above average. Like the cars which are above average or like really good in terms of fuel saving are, I'm just gonna name a few examples here, like the Lexus, the 17 Lexus, the 18 Nissan GTR. Like those cars are really good in fuel saving, especially on high-speed circuits. With the GTR, you might argue about it because of it being a turbo, and once you shift up earlier, you're going to lose the momentum, or like the turbo boost in the end, and thus you're going to lose a lot more time on the straight line. But if you have the slipstream, it's, yeah, you can do it easily, to say the least. And cars which are like average in my opinion are like the, yeah, I would say M6 maybe. These cars are like average, but then the BRZ, then there was also Miu driving the Citroen on top splits. Like those cars are like below average in my opinion, which is a bit surreal with the BRZ because it's already the slowest car in a straight line, but it's also like one of the worst cars in terms of fuel consumption. So this is why I was really hoping to not not to make a single mistake, or like a single crucial mistake in sector 2, because that was the strongest part of the BS setting. You were always able to see how much time I was able to pull away from brake in sector 2, and this way I could also use the slipstream of the cars in front of me, because the closer you are to the cars in front of you, I mean, the stronger the slipstream effect is in wait, no, wait. Let me rephrase myself. So like the closer you are to the cars in front of you, the stronger you can utilize the slipstream effect. Yes, that's how I wanted to phrase it. But yeah, so this is pretty much how the race is going to be like. Like on the first stint, I'm not sure if I think there were like few moments where I was a bit, yeah, frustrated to see, or let's say not frustrated, but let's say not happy about, yeah, let's say how drivers were like going for some moves, because I was like, hey, if we are already fighting at the beginning of the race, we might lose the gap to the leaders in front of us. But luckily it was all good, because you're about to see towards the end of the race how it kind of unfolded itself. But I think that's mainly it in terms of the strategy, and also about the race itself, because yeah, in dry condition, yeah, sorry about that, because I also forgot to mention one important information here. We have to do a mandatory pit stop in this race. Like, even if you have the tires to make it till the end, and also the fuel consumption, you still had to do a pit stop in this race. So because of that, the best strategy on dry conditions was like to do 10-10 in the end, like 10 laps on the first stint, 10 laps on the final stint, where you would also change the tires because it's a long circuit. And yeah, the race itself was also pretty long. I think it's like around 50 minutes or like 48 minutes ish, depending on the conditions you have. And that's mainly it, I think, because I also intend to share a daily race video, and like from this week's daily race C, and then also doing the second round of the Manufacturers Cup, which takes place at Road Atlanta. Well, I hope we can maybe get a better result with the BRZ, but you're going to see here, because I was still really pleased what I was able to achieve with the beer set. Because normally in dry conditions, yeah, let's say I don't want to complain about it too much. But instead, be really grateful about the experience that I was able to race against these fast drivers here once again. And maybe the next step could be me gaining a bit more DR so that we can also enter the top split once again. And also race against the other world champions there, right? And also against the other top split drivers here. But in my opinion, I don't wanna, how do you call it, discredit or like downplay anybody here in this lobby, because the majority of the drivers here could easily be in the top split as well, such as Consta, Iceman, Karlster, so literally the guys within the top 3, especially Karlster, my goat. Rick in P6, Tip Racing in P8, he's also really good. Slayers also has the pace to be in top split. But literally all the drivers here in this lobby could be in top split in my opinion. It's quite unfortunate that we can only have 16 drivers in a lobby, because imagine how the race would have been like if we had maybe 32 players instead. Because like then you would put all the drivers from the second split onto the top split as well, because of us increasing the player limit, right? Man, that would have been so good, man. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in the future we might see that. But I don't know. It's just a wishful thinking. But yeah, I would like to tell you guys, please enjoy the rest of this video, because so that, I don't know, like I could have maybe cut it or like make it shorter, but I know there's some people out there who enjoy watching the whole footage so that they can also learn everything. And because of that, I will just end my commentary here, but not the race. The race is still going to last for a bit of time here. But hopefully I'll be able to see you guys on the next video, or like on the next time stream. Let's see. I don't know. But apart from that, I would like to wish you guys a good day, and already all the best for the second round of the Manufacturers Cup, if you guys want to do it. And until then, I will catch you guys later on. So yeah, see ya!